Alright, roll call.
Harry Lowenthal.
Ethan Lowe, attorney for the Planning Commission.
Regina Riddell.
Bill McMahon.
Tom Spath.
Darren Mercer.
Jane Heberly.
Alright. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes from the October meeting? It's on your second
They did
page.
get out in time, cutting it very close, but they were before the meeting, so.
Thanks, Jamie, for preparing.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Moving along to old business, last couple meetings we've been discussing economic development. A lot of people, I think we had some assignments last meeting. I think Harry, you were able to reach out to the sisters, right?
I have. I will need to get a little more information and reach back. It did not sound promising. The person I talked to about the food desert situation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think the sisters would be concerned with that. Nothing they really do there. As for the pharmacy, if they would have a clinic here, they might have a drop-off, place people could pick up prescriptions. But I have not heard back. I will need to get back with them and see if there's anything they can do, but it did not sound promising.
Thanks, Harry. And then, Ethan, you prepared a letter to the pharmacy out of,
I believe it's a hometown pharmacy, I believe, and I've not received a response to that letter at this point. It did go out.
other than that, I think, and then I believe Jaron reached out to Save a Lot. He is not present today. He had work, but he didn't. I don't think he's received a response yet from his contact with Save a Lot yet either. So we'll keep trying and pushing. Does anyone have any other ideas or for next meeting?
We've got a vet hospital, but we really don't have like any veterinary clinics here that are just, your run-of-the-mill animal wellness, and it's just with as many, dog hotels per se as we have, you would think that would be a good fit. People are already bringing their animals to Westville to begin with, it's kind of been their travel radius.
That's something to look into. I think is there a couple out right outside of town, or they're a little about 5 miles out probably.
Dr. Bloom is not taking more.
Oh, she's not.
Just say, I go clear over to, north side of Michigan City.
We did have at one time, wasn't it a rehabilitation center, like two and a half years ago, for Stesiak's property?
It's going to be big animals, though, horses and such, from what I remember.
I think that's right, Harry.
I remember hearing I thought there was acupuncture. He was certified for doing some.
They told me at Dog Paradise that there would be, because my Rocky has some hip problem or knee problems, and they said that acupuncture, they would be able to work with him, and massage therapy. So it would be for smaller animals, because he only weighs 20 pounds.
Did they talk about, I know they cleared the home out, that home's been demoed on that property they're looking at, but I haven't heard any more updates.
And that, I haven't either, because they said, that's what they said that was going in there, and that Rocky could be attended to with his condition.
And Tom, they did get some zoning approvals for that, and I forget whether it was variances or rezoning or what they did, but there were definitely some approvals that were given for that.
It has been every bit of 2 years,
It
hasn't
has,
it?
it has.
Maybe it's worth reaching out to Kurt Stesiak to see if that's kind of dropped off, if it's still there, and just waiting for financing or cash flow.
Well, and didn't they come with, the people that own Dog Paradise, didn't they come and visit and tell us what they were going to do?
Yeah, they did.
They were based out of Valparaiso
Yeah.
right now, I think. I don't know if there might be clinic services there, but it might be more specialized, but it'd be something to look into.
Yeah, if Kurt had a hand in that, I could talk to him. I've got a pretty good dialogue with him.
Yeah.
And then, as far as just the other people in the area doing it, maybe it's, worth reaching out to them and seeing if they looked at this area, because even if not for the vacant Main Street property, there's a lot of storefronts in the shopping plaza up the street, that, it wouldn't take much space for that to go in. It'd be nice to see some of that occupied.
That's a good idea. You wanna reach it, you could even, the relationship you have with the clinic, you go to Michigan City too, see what their thoughts are on it, they know, they might have other people within the industry that are, you know, that may be interested as well too. Anything else under economic development? Moving on to like new business, the beautification committee, that ordinance was passed, we only have one member appointed. For that, is it, one thought was we could possibly advertise that, maybe, those openings. I think it's 4 for the planning commission and 3 for the town council.
That's correct.
It might be worth seeing if, you know, it'd be nice if somebody would, I mean, you can go out and ask people, but there might, if we got the information out there, we might get some, you know, good people that come forward and maybe have a resume or some interest on why they're interested, so.
That'd be a good idea.
We might see different faces.
So with that ordinance, the planning commission and town board has the approval authority for the members.
That's correct. So, yes, that is
Because,
correct.
I mean, there were some names thrown around here recently that weren't the most friendly people to the town, and I mean, that,
Yeah, the planning commission, so like for the appointments for the planning commission, we would vote on the names, the applicants. And then I guess of those applicants, the town council would have a pick too, and they have, you know, if anybody reaches out to people as well, that's another option for that. But I think we need to fill it, well, I think that's the best way though. We need to kind of open it up and make sure people know that it's available and give people the chance, so.
Tom, it may be helpful to put together, I mean, this doesn't have to be anything overly complicated, but kind of a short application form, and maybe if there was some way to get that up on the website or to have copies here at town hall, at least then people could fill that out and submit it and give you some of that information that you were seeking as to why they were wanting to be on the committee.
And then we can put the ordinance up too as well with all the
Right.
details and responsibilities.
Maybe just a punch list of the criteria, that way you don't have people that wouldn't, you know, that maybe they're not from the area or within the township or something, you wouldn't have inappropriate people.
I can put it, I have quite a few people following the Facebook page, so I can put it on the Facebook page for the police department.
Yeah, probably the most effective advertising you have, really.
Yeah, you can probably even boost that out. You have a good following there though. So,
Who's currently appointed?
it's,
Jackie Prentice.
She was a town council appointment. So the town council has 2 appointments still to make, the planning commission has all 4.
alright, anything else on the beautification committee? I think that's, once we get that form, then we kind of move to the next steps on that. It's just real important that we need to make sure we have somebody on there, because we're gonna be following the public meeting notice, Robert's Rule of Order, make sure we got that all. The town is, you know, it's a group that, you know, the town's at risk with, so it's gotta have people that wanna play by, they're gonna be following a lot of rules, so. The next thing on the, new business is the joint zoning ordinance update. So we met again today at 4 o'clock, it was, Charlie Ray, Lori, Justin Keel and myself. We also have Kingsbury that they have interest, they couldn't make today's meeting as well, but we spent time going through each section in the existing LaPorte County ordinance, and then we also started going, Charlie actually went through it. The city of LaPorte took the county zoning ordinance and actually, their modifications, they just crossed out on the counties and have notes all over the place on the county's ordinance, so it kind of helped us see the changes they were making. That's going to be very applicable to us. And then Charlie had the idea, right now on the county zoning ordinance, it actually has, for each section, it actually shows, you know, what parts are county, which are cities, and then Charlie suggested we add one for town, so you can see in that zoning ordinance right off the bat, which areas are applicable to town, so they're not going through the whole thing if they don't need to. So there's a lot of discussion going on there. It's nice having Charlie involved because he gets to see every day questions that come up on our ordinance and which are going to be in conflict. So hopefully we can work through a lot of these kinks together and move forward. But it looks like as far as their designations and the town's designations, we're not going to have too many issues of not designations that aren't going to cross over to the new one. So, but very early stages, more information gathering on that from this standpoint. I think lacrosse is one that adopters, very soon. We might take a little bit longer with ours, just to make sure. I'd like to get a lot of public involvement as we move through and make sure everyone's comfortable with it, so. Any questions on the joint zoning ordinance? It's really fun stuff. It's important. It is neat though, going through it. I think the process, if it's clean, it's gonna save the town. It's gonna be better for people in the city limits, and it's gonna be better for the town, and it's gonna make things move, so. That's the goal. The next thing on the list, are the new business. I attached some pages from our comprehensive plan. One was the SWOT analysis we went through as a town, and then also the short-term goals. We've started going through, we've actually, between the town council, planning commission, a lot of these items that were on this, gone through during the comprehensive plan, we have been tackling. The zoning was a major one that was in our opportunities and weaknesses, and that's a big task to take on, and we're starting that. The other one that's been brought up, and I think has to do with beautification and also the town, is the lack of branding is in our weaknesses. The Chamber of Commerce, they have a community fund that's designated for projects. It might be in the, with the planning commission, it might be good for us to reach out to them. The purpose of that fund is to go towards projects that are hard to fund. Branding might be a hard thing to get funds raised for, to have somebody come in and create a brand for the town and make consistent signage throughout the town. So the thought was between the planning commission, we could reach out to the Chamber of Commerce to see if they have interest in joining us for that project and partnering with us. There's no issues with that, is there, going out to an outside organization, partnering? As long as there's no fund.
Right, yeah, no, that should be okay.
We file, if we get it, if it's more than, if we have a quorum, we gotta have notice and all that.
Correct.
So, but that fund's been sitting for about 10 years, so I think it's grown. I know they did some fundraising with it recently, so it would be a fund though, if it does get used for a purpose like this, it might grow and might be opportunities for more funding for the community in the future. The more that gets noticed, so.
I mean, those funds, we just need to make sure if we're gonna move forward with spending them, that just make sure that we have all of our I's dotted and T's crossed.
Exactly.
Make sure there's no issues with the state board accounts or anything along those lines.
And it is a Unity Foundation fund, and it is under the Chamber of Commerce,
Okay,
but it is considered it'll be working hand in hand with the Unity Foundation, I think.
okay.
That might be a task too that we have the beautification committee get involved with right away, to be involved with that. If you have a minute to go through this, does anybody have any thoughts on any other item? What I was trying to, I think, we have certain projects we're doing. I think if we get 2 or 3 projects as a planning commission, if we don't have things coming forward within the town, just to keep moving some of these projects we have in our comprehensive plan moving forward. Branding would be huge, zoning is huge, but there's a lot of others on here. So if you want to take a moment to look and see if there's any other items that we should start tackling, or find an organization to get more involved.
Just a comment, Tom,
Yeah.
under our threats, it says the Frank Patton with the Great Basin Railroad, that's not a threat anymore since it's gone away.
Yes, that's been,
So that's kinda nice, you don't have to deal with that anymore.
yeah, that is tackled, that is a good.
We have Clear Lake that's been turned over to DNR, so we've kind of accomplished that task by having DNR take it over.
Does that still have public access?
Yeah.
It will.
Yeah.
One thing I think would be good for us to do, as the time gets, they're gonna have public hearings probably for that property. I think it's Jamie we need to get in contact with. It would be good for the town of Westville to be involved with those meetings, because there is probably a little bit of opposite. I think it's split on that property and how it's gonna, there might be some opposition, there's people for it. I think a lot of people from the town will be for it, so it'd be good for us to get that out once those public hearings come to light, and the town to be involved with that.
How do we accomplish, I'm seeing on here, like bike trails and stuff like that, and I mean, I'm fairly new to the whole process. How have communities over the years been successful in the Rails to Trails program? I mean, it seems like we have so much vacant railway that's never gonna be used again, but it's just sitting there overgrown. So how does a community develop that to walking trails, bike trails, like it's done in Michigan all over? I mean, rails to trails in Michigan is huge, but how do they do that?
Well, I know like Blooms County Park, that's a lot of grants. I think they're working on a grant right now to tie into, they got all the school, I think, between the school, the state, and the county, they've worked together for a federal grant to take Blooms Trail all the way to Westville schools. That was through a grant, a matching grant. I think they had to put so much money forward. That was part of that trail, I think, that the state put in. And now Blooms County Park has to tie in from the state's trail to Blooms Trail, and then the schools probably have to pay for sidewalks to connect to our sidewalks that we already put in, I think, as part
I mean, we had discussed somehow connecting Westville to Purdue Northwest in a way other than by highway. So how would we accomplish that? Because I think that would be our biggest asset, is to connect the two, and then from there, how is that done? I don't know how that.
I talked to like some folks at NERC about that. They said if there's a will, there's a way, but it takes a lot us really going after it, I think. Especially one thing, you know, like if you look at the Mona, you know, the bike trail right now, it's going to connect from Westville all the way to the end of the county. What is it, 300 south?
Mhm.
It stops there. So like if you get homeowners on board, you know, like if you look past that, I mean, there's only a few homeowners. There's some NIPSCO easements that are possibly could be used, but a lot of it's getting the homeowners involved and on board with it. And then from there, then you probably pull in your NERC and then the county. There's no reason the town can't be the instrumental piece to make it happen. The big thing is just having the idea, kind of creating a plan, and then pushing the plan.
I mean, I think it would just make us more desirable for student housing, I mean, that kind of thing. I mean, you have landlords in town that depend on rent from students at different times, and if there's a way for kids to go someplace other than, you know, a car, you know, if they wanna ride a bike or walk or whatever.
I think it's a good idea. I think the first step is kind of creating create like proposed paths, you know, and then you talk to the homeowners and see if there was any interest, and see if you get pushed which direction they would go. If you can get a homeowner, like, you know, there's some people that own like I forgot the name of the family that owns the fields north of there, but our neighbors. Why is this looking online? Just north of Creasels. I mean, but if they use the trails right now and they have interest behind it, they get behind it. That's huge. That's halfway there. And then if you can get Purdue on board with it and get them involved, that might help there too. I know NIPSCO has an easement as well up there. They cross. If you could get it, NIPSCO could take you from the Mona onto the highway.
Now, is it the state that owns, that granted the easement for the bike trail that exists, or the path that exists along the highway? Because that, if you just continued that trail, you know, further north, there's already an established crossway at Purdue to take you to the student housing. There's paths all through that area, and then you're just crossing as a 200. You know, you're crossing 200, and then if you continue down along the highway,
Sure.
I would think that would be the easiest connect, you know, especially because we've got a trail that exists already, and we could then connect a central Westville trail that would basically, it would capitalize on our attributes inside of the town to that. I would think that would be the easiest to do, because when you're taking people to the west, you know, to the abandoned railroad right away, you've got the problem of distance connecting via country roads, and then you've got the issue of seclusion, you know, which is, whereas if you're along the highway, you're never secluded.
Sure.
Well, I think that would be the proposed. Do proposed paths, and then one thing to do is just reach out to the homeowners. I've never reached out to Creasels. I don't have really a relationship. I know my dad probably does a little bit. Does anybody have a relationship with the Creasels at all, north of town? We've had to buy, South Cook, was it, Purdue's had to work with them a little bit, haven't they, with the lift station?
You know, I'm not sure about that, Tom.
Because that they have to have like a little right, they had to buy probably a little right of way or something at some point for their lift station.
I'm trying to remember, I believe the brother who owned that property originally has passed away, but I believe that's his wife and family that has that, but I don't remember that. If I get a chance, I can talk to one of the brothers and see, but we have the abandoned railroad that went that way, which is already town property, correct? Isn't that the corridor that runs from the south to the north?
I don't know that it's our property though. Is it our
Thought
property?
that showed it on the zoning maps that way. Am I thinking right?
I'm not sure if that's town property, maybe within the town, I'm not sure whether it's town property.
Yeah, I think that's always been an issue.
Because that was,
We wanted that property, but we never got it.
that was part of the problems with the rails to trails. You know, they had some of those areas where like the railroad still had full ownership. But they had others that it turned out, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think some of that reverted back to original property owners. Well, depending on how the agreements were written.
And that depends upon how the railroad originally acquired it, that's right, yes.
Because some of them, as you head east, they turned that back into farmland. Other parts of it are still a trail there. But, you know, you don't use them. And the seclusion is the biggest problem. You got some of those that are out in the middle of nowhere.
Right. That's it's a good point, I think connectivity is big. There's a couple people in there, there's a gentleman in Nervsey, I can give you guys his name, but he's the trail guru over there. If there's anything to do with trails, he's the guy to talk to. He's been involved in he's very involved with Blooms, any project that's going on in Northwest Indiana, he's been involved with. And he is a good one to talk to on how to get it done, what makes a project successful and what one's not so successful, so. And funding's always a big one. That's why it's important, if you have homeowners on board, and they use a trail and they consider it an asset, that would be, because it is a cost, you can't, obviously to do these projects, you can't just go out and buy acres. But if people are willing to lease them or give them away, especially if they see it as a benefit, that's where it comes from.
And I don't know if it's anything that could work, but like with the water and sewer heading up the South Coast, there has to be easements allowed for that, doesn't there? Is that anything that could be approached using the
South
easements
Coast
for
might
that?
be within the state highways right of way, but we'd have to determine what the bounds of that were and whether that's owned in fee simple or whether it's easement and if there's limitations. That's a big part of those pathway projects is the acquisition of the right of way and making sure that you have that done appropriately. If there's going to be any type of federal funds involved, it all has to be fee simple. You can't get it through easements. So that's just a big part of that.
So how would we actually get that started then?
I think that's probably talking with Mitch Barloga at
Mitch is the
NERC
guy.
would probably be the first starting point. I mean, I know that that's a lot of what Mitch does. There's certainly funds out there for that. All of those projects that I've been involved in, there's a local match, so we would have to figure out a way in which to give them fund.
But we could find out what that's about.
Sure.
Are you gonna make contact with them?
I didn't wanna do any work, I just wanted to bring a conversation.
No, but Mitch would, county would be involved with it too, it's county property. It would benefit the county too.
I could see you heading that up, chief.
10-4.
Mitch, I'll give you his contact. Any other items on this SWOT analysis or?
I have a
Those-
comment
Yeah.
about this food desert thing. I had someone talking with me over the weekend, and there's this general feel in the community that the town council can do something about this, about the food desert situation and the pharmacy desert situation. And I think it probably needs to be put out to the public, what the council's role is and isn't. I mean, we can't do it. We cannot buy it from a grocery store and open it up. And I think a lot of people are thinking that is something we can do. And so I'm asking this board, I think we need to make a statement. I think information needs to be shared. And what would you suggest legally that we do to make people aware of what we really can and cannot do? We've reached out as much as we possibly can to people. it's obvious no one wants to talk to us.
Mhm.
So, but I think the general public doesn't have a clue about what we can, what our limitations are.
Yeah, I mean, we certainly can't require somebody to come into Westville and open
That's
up
right.
a grocery store or pharmacy or anything along those lines. If there's an individual that would be interested in doing that, there may be some incentives that the town could provide to try and encourage them to locate here. But certainly, I mean, in addition to that, I mean, the town is not going to get into the business, a pharmacy or grocery
Yeah.
business
And that
to
was,
fill that void.
and that was the information that I shared with this individual. You know, I said, of course, the town can give incentives. We can somehow, if someone is interested, we can somehow make it work as far as the town giving those incentives. But we can't buy a grocery store and open it up.
What kind of incentives can the town give?
Tax abatements and that sort of thing.
Because really, I think the big thing comes down to is who will rent it from Mr. Setzer, if they're
Here's
gonna
the
use
thing
that
about it.
space.
Like the what is the federal grant that the food and drug FDA or something. There is a grant, a federal grant. Knox, for example, the community of Knox. The individual who owns that store got some tax abatement from the city or the town of Knox, and they got a federal grant to open that store. But they had to have access to $150,000. They didn't have to have $150,000 in hand, but they had to have access. Like someone could go to Jamie at her bank and say, is there any way we can have a line of credit and you give them a $150,000 line of credit? Then that person can go to the federal grant and say, I have access to this money, and then they negotiate that. And that's basically what happened in Knox. So that could happen there at Brian's too. And Brian said he had a woman that was very interested a few months ago, but she did not have access to that $150,000 cash access. The community, the general public doesn't realize that. And there's some way that we need to get that out, because there may be some people that could actually,
Oh, absolutely,
Get that.
there's a lot of people that, you know, that would be something that's on hand, or for that matter, they may have that on hand and would wanna partner with someone with the
Sure.
ambition to take that sort of thing
Sure.
on. And so by getting that information, you know, disseminated to the community, you might have some partnerships that might arise.
because they
out of
don't know that, you know, and I think that, I just think that there's more opportunity for that store to be open, for a store to be opened, if people had information like that.
Sure, so maybe if we put out a release that said, you know, did you know that, you know,
Yeah.
Knox had a similar situation to Westville's at
Yeah.
one time, and it was
Yeah.
remedied through the use of this grant, this is how
It's a
they went about it.
USDA grant, isn't it? I
Yeah.
think it is, yeah, the USDA.
Is there probably an article online on how they accomplished that?
I am sure there is, and I think that, you know, and I'm as guilty as the next, I think, because I know this, that probably everybody else knows this. No, well, they don't.
So could we do a press release?
I think so. I think it would be real good.
Is it Justin Keel that you deal with, isn't he involved with Region News, or?
Yeah, he could do that.
But then it's also getting it in to say the Herald Argus and News Dispatch and the Northwest Indiana Times.
And get it on social media, put it on your and on the website, you know. I just think people need to know that. I really think that we probably have someone right here, or like Bill said, you know, have a partnership or whatever. I think we have people in town, we can have a store. I think that possibility is quite real. And I think a pharmacy is the same thing. I think there has to be a way that we can get that pharmacy. And if nothing else, if a pharmacy wants to deliver, maybe somehow there can be, something could be worked out where it would be beneficial and it would be accommodating to the people of Westville to get their meds.
Sure, and if we frame this press release in a manner that is essentially saying, hey, there's some low-hanging fruit, but it's only gonna be available to the first one to step up and pick it. You're gonna get some people with some ambition to find out if that's a possibility.
Right, that's excellent, excellent.
And I think one of the unique challenges Westville faces, you know, location is why people move here. You know, we're like 10 minutes away from everywhere. So that's like, when you think of a business coming here, it's a little bit of a disadvantage because they can go 10 minutes anywhere and get to access to those businesses.
Exactly right.
And a lot of people, there are people that work in Westville. There's a lot of people that work in Michigan City, that work in LaPorte, Chesterton, Valpo. both. So that's one of the challenges we face here, but, I think it's a good idea if you get somebody even within the community with ambition that are interested, I think that's gonna be the person that really kicks it off.
So Justin would be willing to work with us, wouldn't they?
Oh, yeah, Justin would definitely help us with this. He might be able to help us do some research on it as well. I think they're facing the, Union
You wanna
Mills
do
is
it?
facing.
I'll do research as well, and
Good.
I can write very
Yeah, you
good
can
copies,
always-
so.
Wonderful.
I-
That'd be great.
I'll put do you guys wanna see it? Do you guys want me to email the copy?
Yeah,
Or
why
is
don't
it something
you?
that needs to come up before a meeting or before the
Well-
release, or how do we do that?
How would we do that? Is this something we would wanna bring before this board before we put it out to the general?
You know, I don't know that you need to take, I mean, if everybody is kinda has a consensus, they're
It could be-
okay with the
okay.
verbiage, then it should go out that way. I don't
Just-
think it needs to be like voted on. in a
So we
public
could just
meeting.
do like an email share then?
Okay, yeah,
Great.
I'll get some copy together and
Thank
we'll go
you.
from there.
Thank you.
Just the one, because I don't want anybody to walk out of here with a misunderstanding. The tax abatement side of things, you can't abate existing property.
Right.
So it would either be new construction, or if somebody was going to renovate or expand existing construction. So I don't, just
That's good.
factor that in.
Yeah,
Sure.
thank you.
And you would only be abating the increase in the assessed valuation. So that property, let's say, has an assessed valuation of $100,000, and they're gonna do a $100,000 improvement on it. It's just $100,000 improvement, the increase in taxes that would be abated.
That's good to know.
Yeah. And that very well may be something they would like to do, because when you look at the store as it currently existed, it's a nice size, but it's rather small. And someone, if they can get a federal grant to do that, I think that, I've seen the one in Knox, it's a pretty good sized store. And there's also, with that grant, I understand that Knox is not utilizing it to its full intent, that they could actually do like a farmer's market in the seasons. They could actually do that. And it was real interesting, I talked with Maria Fruth with the IU Foundation, and she was telling me about it. She said that is one thing, that there are two things that's becoming very popular, and it's a community garden and a farmer's market. And she said there are places that have farmer's markets 3 seasons of the year now. So, and that grant can be used for that, is what Maria told me. So, I mean, there's a lot of innovative ways that we can stop being a food desert.
Sure. And I mean, in South Bend, if you go, there's a food market along the St. Joe River right off Mishawaka Avenue, and they're busy every Saturday. I mean, the place is packed.
Yeah, yeah, and
It's
people,
very popular.
yeah, it is a popular place to go. People go and for the enjoyment of it as well, you know, yeah. So I think there's just so much potential that we just haven't, we've not even reached out to touch.
I think it's a good idea, getting information on that USDA grant and the Knox story, I think would be.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll put that together.
Cool, thanks, Phil.
So,
We don't
say,
have-
me and the mouse in my pocket, we'll get that put together.
Appreciate
Put
that.
your mouth in there.
So I think, I like to keep, we got a couple, these are projects, we'll focus in on these areas and put those, once we finish these, we'll move on to the next one, keep these moving forward. So we got the branding and coordinating with the chamber. Queer Lake with that was touch base on, let's just make sure that we stay in the loop with the DNR and when those public hearings come to light, and with the public access program. The bike trails, Darren graciously volunteered to talk to Mitch Barloga
10-4.
to find more information on how we can work with the county and NERC and neighboring owners to
And
complete
Bill,
a trail to
thank you for doing
PNC.
the copy, that's wonderful.
And then on zoning, we'll continue to push through the joint zoning ordinance the county and the Fort Michigan City have, and how the town can be adopted into that. And then also what we just discussed on the food desert and pharmacy. Bill, you're gonna handle that on the press release. Is there anything else?
I think we have a full plate.
Yeah, it is a lot, that is a huge plate, but it's good stuff for us to tackle, and keep moving forward.
Well, and I think we need to get this information out to the public too on our website, and can you put it on your Facebook? I think just to let people know what we're doing. Is there anything that your bank, you being in the position that you are in the bank and on this board too, is there any way you can share information that would not be a problem? About the community and what the planning commission's doing and that sort of thing?
We are limited on
Yeah, I know there's.
certain things, so
Yeah,
what kind of information specifically?
well, about the projects that we have going. Would that be something that the bank would be able to share, or?
Within the bank, they'd be able to share it, with the community.
Mhm.
I'm trying to think of how they would do something like that.
I think she's alluding to maybe posting some of this information on the electronic sign out front, but I wonder if that wouldn't be a
How-
conflict of interest.
We do post things on the electronic sign.
More community activities or things
Community
like that.
activities, I know we have a lot of things going up there for the upcoming season and things, food pantry and so on is, all that information is going up there. If there's a specific project or specific meeting, yes, they will post that information, to notify, everyone in town. Everybody sees it, so it has to be something specific. It
Yeah.
would be my guess.
Okay.
And I don't think we can negate, the value of just posting on the front windows. I mean, a lot of people stop and look when things are posted.
Is it Chris Schoaf's wife that manages that sign from, approves what's put up and what isn't? I thought Chris had said at one time his wife does that.
Well, what's her name?
Trying to think of her first name. I can ask Chris, he's one of my part-time guys.
Okay, yeah. I know
There's a specific lady we deal with and Shope doesn't sound right.
I'll ask, cause she had put the thin blue line
Oh,
up
did
there
she?
for police week.
Yeah, she,
And
whoever, yeah.
I'll
That's
ask,
great.
I'll ask Chris and see if,
Well, there might be something that, with the beautification committee, that there may be something come up, a community project that's gonna be starting. Yeah, I'm just thinking about getting the information to people.
We do also, just like most of the businesses, we have a board where we can post papers and information that way, and people do see it and comment on it and ask questions about things that way as well.
Yeah, definitely. Businesses can share on their Facebook pages and their followings. That'd be a good way. That is probably a good idea. I think it's more connectivity.
Facebook is crazy. I had 12 or 13,000 people reach on one post on our Facebook page.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Is that with boosting or without boosting?
That was without posting.
That is excellent. That's a It's a very inexpensive way to do it.
It only happened once, but
Is it something?
cool. It's my claim to fame.
Well, that's on the police Facebook page. That's a good way to do it. And this is all recorded on YouTube too, so we'll go up there. So. Anything else as far as new business that we want to address in the planning commission? Anyone would like to entertain a motion to adjourn?
The one thing, I probably should have brought it up under old business, did you have a chance to talk to the town council about a Foundation for Fair Contracting presentation?
I don't remember. I talked to Mike, I think. I don't think we were up at.
I think.
And Marcy's been in contact with Mike, I believe.
Yeah, I
And
think
given
she's
him
got
a
a meeting with
draft
Mike.
ordinance.
Yeah, I know I brought it up with Mike.
Yeah.
Okay, thank
Like
you
to
for
be
helping
able
me.
to have that put on, I think
Yeah.
it's very educational and informative.
Yeah. That was on our minutes, I saw from last
Okay, and then I did bring.
time. It might have been brought up in the town council meeting. I recall from a month ago though. So. Yeah, okay. I'll make a motion, we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
You're so shy.
Motion passed. Meeting adjourned.